Hello friends, I am so excited to be back today with a bookish reading vlog. I love filming these and I'm so excited about this video in particular because I am going to be reading until I find my first 5-star read of 2025. I have read 10 books so far this year, but none of them have been 5 stars yet. I have read some very incredible books, but nothing that has entirely rocked my world, a book that I can't stop thinking about, nothing like that. And so I'm so excited to start reading to hopefully find my next 5-star book. And if you're new here, hello, my name is Molly. I'm so happy you're here. I talk all about running, reading, Disney, life in my 30s. I talk about all the things that just bring me joy and bring y'all along for experiencing life in my 30s in Austin, Texas. And if that is something you are interested in, I hope you will subscribe and stick around. I definitely want to do more reading vlogs this year. My content was like very heavy on running at the beginning of the year, and I will definitely keep doing running content because it's such a huge part of my life, but that's primarily what I focus on Instagram. And so it's really fun on YouTube just to get to talk about all the other things that I love in addition to running. And so I am really excited just to hopefully do more reading vlogs. I will say I have read 10 books so far this year, but I have not been able to read as much as I would like. And so that's another one of the reasons I'm just super excited about filming this video. While I have read 10 books so far this year, which I feel like is a good amount, I will say I just haven't been able to read as much as I usually like to. I've been working pretty late evenings, at least for the past week. I think I've only read like 1 or 2 books so far in February. I just like haven't read very much. And so I'm hoping even just like starting this video, it'll help me to carve out more time to read. But I've been finishing work around like 7:38, and then I just like my brain cannot handle reading after such long work days. So I haven't really been reading, but I'm just so excited to hopefully find my next 5-star read. I think about the books last year that I had as 5-star reads, and they literally, like, I think about them all the time because they were so good. And so I'm so excited about the potential of a 5-star read, and I've got a really amazing lineup of books that I have very high expectations for. So if you watched my Barnes & Noble book shopping vlog, then you will definitely recognize a few of those picks in this video, as well as at least one other one that I've seen some other people talking about that I'm like, I feel like this could be a 5-star read for me. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the reading. And the first book that I am starting with is The Apprentice to the Villain. Last year I read The Assistant to the Villain, and that book was 4.5 stars for me. And I feel like I really haven't heard a lot of people talking about the sequel to that book, but it is a fantasy, and it is exactly what the title is. It's about Evie, the character who is the apprentice to the villain, Tristan, and the last book kind of left us with a cliffhanger, and I'm about 20 pages in now. You can see I started it last night, and 20 pages in, I'm already hooked. I am dying to know what happens. I'm not typically a fantasy girly. I have shared that on here before, but I just loved the first one so much. I'm so glad I gave it a try, and it's just so fun. Like, it's fun characters, it's a fun, like, ridiculous plot. It is laugh out loud funny. So I'm so excited to spend some time reading this. It is Saturday. I spent most of the day working, so my brain is a little mushy. It's 5:30 now, but I'm gonna try to read for at least an hour, and then my husband will get back probably in about 2 hours. So we'll see. I'll read anywhere from 1 to 2 hours tonight, but I'm hoping to make some good headway since I just didn't get to read that much this past week. But yeah, we'll see if it's 5 stars, and I just cannot wait. I feel like this is gonna be such a fun video, and yeah, let's go find our next 5-star read together. I fear it has been a minute since I have recorded, and in the time passing, I think it's been over 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks now. In the time passing, I have finished Apprentice to the Villain and have also packed up all my books because we are moving. So I no longer have it to show y'all, but y'all, I finished this book literally 2.5 weeks ago. I honestly just haven't had that much time to read, so I finished the book late at night, and then for the next like 2 weeks I hardly even read and didn't really grab my camera either. So here we are, and I wanted to share my thoughts on Apprentice to the Villain. Y'all know I absolutely loved the first book. I read it at the end of last year and was really hopeful about this one, and while I did really enjoy it, I did not enjoy it as much as the first book, Assistant to the Villain, and I ended up rating this book 3.5 stars, which is still really good. Honestly, I was so into it from the very start. I really love Evie and Tristan, like love the characters. I think it is so fun. It's just like a silly, fun, lighthearted book to read, and so I was hooked like right away, and I felt like by the second half of the book, I just wasn't enjoying it as much. Kind of felt like it was like dragging on more than it needed to. Honestly, just felt like the book was longer than it needed to be, and it didn't really love the ending either. So that's how we ended up at 3.5 stars. I still cannot wait for the third book. I still really love this series, but this book was a little bit of a letdown. Onwards to our next book that potentially might be 5 stars. Morning. I did not get much sleep last night. We were hanging out with friends late last night, and now my body is just like automatically waking me up at 5:45. I feel like regardless of whether or not my alarm has been set. So was up and at 'em this morning and have been having a very slow morning. Dotman's out at coffee with friends, and so I have started my next book, which as y'all saw is Beartown by Frederick Bachman. I am so excited and so like I think I'm a little bit nervous because I feel like everyone I see who reads it just like looks like they're absolutely wrecked by this book. So I'm pretty sure this is my first Frederick Bachman. It's definitely my first Frederick Bachman as an adult. I potentially read one of his books when I was younger, like in school. I think I maybe read A Man Called Ove or A Man Called Ove. I think it's Ove. I think I read that in school. But anyways, it has been, like, regardless, it's been a very long time since I have read anything by him, and I'm really excited about Beartown. A lot of my favorite book YouTubers have been reading this book and have just like raved about Beartown specifically. So I'm super excited and really don't know what to expect. I know it is about the town of Beartown in Alaska, a very tiny town where essentially everything revolves around this high school, like young boys hockey team. And there's so much writing on this hockey team. And then I know something very dramatic happens that just changes the town forever. And so the book is about what happens and just how everything changes. So I'm actually about 80 pages in now. I'm hoping to get to at least 100 this morning before I start to get to work. And I'm enjoying it so far. I will say there are a lot of characters, and sometimes I really struggle in books that just have so many characters because I feel like it's really hard to remember who's who and like track everything. So I've definitely found myself kind of like going back and forth, like back to the beginning where all the characters were introduced, just like trying to keep everyone straight. So that's like my only complaint so far, but otherwise it's really good, and I am very intrigued to see what happens. There's a like huge game that happens tomorrow in the book, and so a lot of it is just kind of like building the anticipation of whether or not they're going to win this huge game. This is going to be a very unaesthetic reading video since we are in the middle of packing and moving, and I was just packing for a couple hours, so I'm not looking so great. Behind me is a mess, so just bear with me. Yeah, there's just nowhere really that's cute in this apartment anymore to be reading in, but y'all, I had to stop and update y'all because I am now almost 150 pages in to Beartown. I literally cannot put this book down, and I'm so surprised because I was just like a little unsure heading into it because essentially it's a book about hockey, right? And I'm not generally like, I'm not a huge sports person. I'm definitely not a huge like, I know there's a lot of sports romance books. I'm not really a huge like sports romance person. I just don't really read books that are centered around sports since that's not something I like love that much in my day-to-day life. His writing is like so heartbreakingly beautiful, and just exactly like his storytelling and the way to put words into specific emotions is so beautiful. Like, I have been underlining so much, like folding down things, because I love reading certain parts to Dom that are just so beautiful. But even just the way that he captures like the way that loneliness feels and how a lot of these kids and also the parents are feeling, I am just like, I am blown away. I feel like I'm like audibly gasping or being like, yes, like when I am reading this, which does not happen that much. So I'm absolutely loving it. I cannot put it down. Unfortunately, I do have to put it down because I need to pack, but I just took a little break and I'm just so obsessed with it. So like I said, I'm 150 pages in. I'm probably gonna read it for another like 30 minutes or so. I love it so much, and I'm very hopeful that tomorrow I'll have a lot more time to read, just because Sundays are usually more of like our chill day and Saturdays kind of like go, go, go. So fingers crossed I can read more tomorrow because I'm obsessed. I ended up getting some good reading done last night and this morning, and y'all, I only have about 100 pages left in Beartown, so we're headed to a coffee shop just to get some reading done and hopefully finish this book. I've definitely teared up at several parts, and I've seen a lot of people like bawl at the end, so I'm kind of nervous that this book is going to wreck me and I'm just gonna be like sobbing in a coffee shop, which, hey, it's totally fine, and if you've read this book then you definitely know. But this book is so incredible. Obviously, I'll have to wait until the end to see what I'm going to rate it, but he's probably one of the best writers that I've ever read anything from. The way he just like ties everything together and just the themes throughout the novel of grief and community and friendship. It is just so powerful. Like, I am so in awe of his writing, and it's a very heavy book. Obviously, read the trigger warnings because it's a lot and it's very devastating and heartbreaking, but I am so like hooked and just dying to figure out what happens in this book. So I can't wait to go in and start reading and hopefully finish the book. It's been a couple hours since I finished Beartown, and I feel like I am still formulating my thoughts on this book, but oh my gosh, it's so hard to figure out how to describe this book because I loved it and I hated it at the same time, honestly. Like, the whole story is so devastating, it's so heartbreaking. Like I mentioned earlier, just the way that he writes and depicts emotions is so captivating because it's so real. Hang on. It's just a really devastating story, and I knew going into it, like specifically, again, read the trigger warnings for sure. I kind of knew and had heard a little bit about what specifically had happened, and yeah, I don't know. I just feel so many different things about this book. Like, afterwards when I finished, I was like, I want to sob. Like, I feel like I have just been holding my breath and have so many emotions about this book. I loved so many of the characters. I hated so many of the characters too. In particular, I just really didn't like. It definitely ended like leading into what the sequel of this book is. So I'm 100% going to read it, and I honestly don't know what I'm going to rate it, mostly because, like I said, I absolutely loved it and I absolutely hated it. I don't know, it just leaves me in a weird place with the rating. Like, I'm so excited to read more of his work, continue with the series, and just like see where all of these characters go. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, at this time, a couple hours after finishing, I can't figure out if it's a 5-star read or if it's a 4.5. Either way, it was absolutely astonishing and captivating. And yeah, be sure to read trigger warnings before you read it, but I highly recommend this book, and I'll be sure to put my final rating once I actually have it. By the time this video goes up, surely I will know what I rated it. But because I'm not sure whether or not I'm going to rate it 5 stars, I am going to start another book, and I'm so excited that my third book in this video where we're trying to find my next 5-star read is Homeseeking by Carissa Chin. I am so excited about this book because when I read the description of it, it sounded a lot like one of my 6-star reads, which is The Stationery Shop, and so I am super excited. Essentially, it follows 6 decades of 2 different characters' lives. Their names are, I think, Hawin and Suchi, if I'm pronouncing those correctly, and basically they met and fell in love when they were like 7 years old. They didn't fall in love at 7, but like that's when their friendship started, and this is just the story of their lives and what kind of happened in those next 6 decades. I believe with Hawin, it's like starting in the present and then flashing back, and then with Suchi, it's starting back in the past and then looking forward, and so then ultimately will like come together. So I don't know if that's a good description, but yeah, I'm really excited. It's historical fiction, and I feel like it is going to be, if it's anything like Stationery Shop, I know it is absolutely going to wreck me, and I'm also going to love it. I'm really excited to read about these characters and kind of read about a time in history that I haven't read that much about, so I'm really excited about that. I'm definitely going to start this book. I'm not going to start it right now because I need to go and get some work done, but this is the next one that I will be reading, and I can't wait to see if it's 5 stars. We move in less than a week, so just ignore the background situation. At this point, it is just a disaster in here, and there is nowhere cute to film. But I only have 150 pages left in Homeseeking, and I realize I have not given y'all an update yet, and probably to no one's surprise, I love this book and the characters so much. I think I told y'all kind of the premise of the book, but we've been following Suchi and Haiwen, and there are just so many family dynamics that, I don't know, I guess I wasn't thinking that we would necessarily get that. I really love that we get, and we not only do we get to like learn about the family dynamics, but we just get to like feel them too. Carissa Chin is such an amazing writer. I cannot believe this is her debut novel, but I just feel like every single and all of like the intense scenes, I like feel the emotions with them. And I think something else I've really enjoyed is that I do not know, and I still don't know that much about the history of China. I definitely did not know anything really about this war in general, and so I've definitely been doing a lot of Googling just as I'm reading it, just to get a better understanding of the extent of the war and the famine and everything that's mentioned in this book. And so it's been really cool to read about a whole different part of the world that I've never been to, don't know if I'll ever get to go to, and just like learn so much about their history. I also really love how we get both present and past kind of perspectives at once, and I feel like as I'm reading the chapters about the past and everything that happened between them, it's just like filling in the blanks for me, and I am just so curious as a reader to like figure out how we got to not only where we are today, but once we're all caught up, what is going to happen once we're all caught up with this story. Like, yeah, what are they going to do? Are they going to come back together? I think it's super interesting too, because there's so much, just, I'm trying not to spoil it. I'm trying not to share anything that like would give anything away, but I think there's so much when you go through something really hard, whether it's losing a loved one, whether it's going to fight in war, like whether it's family dynamics. There are several different ways to cope, and just reading this book, it's made me wonder which character I'm like kind of like. For Suchi, she refuses to look back in the past. She refuses just to really like spend too much time thinking about the past, and even as she's like dealing with these hardships, she's like not allowing herself to think back to, oh, what if I'd made this decision instead, or what if life had turned out this way because I did X, Y, and Z instead. She just like pushes all of those thoughts away. And then on the other hand, we have Haiwin, who is like not so focused on the past per se, but there's definitely a lot of times where he is like looking back and he's longing and he's wanting and he's wondering. And so it's really interesting we have these two characters who are coping with really hard situations and hard things in two completely different ways. And of course that just like, you know, makes me wonder, I'm like, which one am I like more prone to do? So I just always love when like it's a situation that obviously I cannot relate to. I will never be able to relate to it, but you can still like put yourself in the character's shoes and think about like how you would be coping with everything in that moment. So I'm loving this book so much. Like I said, I have 150 pages left, and like I also said, we are in the middle of packing and moving in this next week. So my intention is to spend a couple more hours today reading and hopefully finishing this book, whether that is later this afternoon or tonight, but I am definitely hoping to finish this book before we move. It's been a few days since I finished Homeseeking, and now that I finally have my thoughts, I'm ready to chat about it with y'all. And same thing as my first book that I read in this vlog, I've already packed it. As you can see, we are all packed up and ready to go. But it took me a few days to kind of formulate my thoughts because I really wanted this book to be a 5-star read for me. And like I mentioned several times, like the plot really reminded me of The Stationery Shop, which is one of my 6-star reads, like truly one of my favorite books I have ever read. And something about this book, obviously I was wrecked when I finished it. If you couldn't tell in those clips, I was like sobbing and just really made me feel a lot of emotions. However, there was just something about it that I was like, I know I didn't like this as much as The Stationery Shop, and I know I didn't like it as much as some of my other just like 5-star reads in general. And even though I felt so many feelings and emotions the entire time as I was reading it, not even just at the end, but just like throughout the book, I felt like I really experienced a lot of the emotions with the characters. And so I was like, what was it about this book that is like stopping me from it being 5 stars? And I was telling Dom all about it. And, you know, he asked me like my ratings, and he was like, I feel like you just didn't really like the way you're talking about it. It sounds like you didn't really like Haiwin. And I was like, maybe I didn't. I was like, I honestly, like, upon reflection, I don't think, I didn't not like him, but I didn't particularly like enjoy him as a character. And upon reflection, I feel like maybe there just wasn't a ton of character development. Like, obviously it's going to be hard to really connect with these characters. As I've mentioned, it's a situation that I will obviously never be in. However, there are just like human elements of it that you can relate to, and just figuring out how you navigate like hard times in life, grief, and missed opportunities and all that stuff. But overall, I just feel like there was maybe a lack of character development, and therefore I just couldn't really like connect to the characters. I feel like I knew Haiwin and I knew what he went through, and like, you know, I knew he went and served in the army and then came back, but overall I still feel like I didn't really get a true sense of like who he was as a character. I did really like Suchi. I definitely think at times like it was kind of annoying how like stubborn she was and how she wouldn't reflect on the past. But yeah, I think the character development was just a little lacking for me. I also know a lot of people struggled with like the timeline and being both like the present and the past. I personally didn't have any issues with that. At times it did kind of take me a minute to like gather my bearings, and it would like pull me out of the book, I think, just trying to like reorient myself as it kept like changing so rapidly. But I didn't really have any issues with that, but I know a lot of people do have like some qualms with that. So overall, I think I'm gonna end up rating it 4 stars, which again, I really was hoping it would be a 5-star read for me, but there was just a bit of like a disconnect to the characters that I couldn't relate to, and I think some of the timeline, while I didn't mind the back and forth, it did just kind of pull me out of the book overall. But I definitely recommend this book. I am still searching for my next 5-star read, but unfortunately, because we are moving, I think I'm gonna go ahead and just like wrap up this vlog. I also think it's getting a little long, so I read 3 books. I was really hoping one of them would be 5 stars, but looks like I am gonna have to create another one of these vlogs. If you enjoyed watching this, definitely let me know, because obviously I am hoping to find a 5-star read soon. It's almost end of March now, and I still don't have a 5-star read for 2025, which is pretty wild. So definitely let me know if you enjoyed this vlog. Let me know your thoughts on the books as well. If you have read any of these, let me know what you thought of them. If they're a 5-star read for you, I would love to hear just like your thoughts and why you rated them 5 stars. And if you have any recommendations for me, I was thinking it would be really fun to do a video where I'm reading like some of y'all's favorite books. I know there were a lot that people have recommended to me that I still haven't had a chance to read. The first one that comes to top of mind is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I still haven't read it. A lot of people recommended it for audiobook when I was trying to get into audiobooks. So that one's at the top of my list, but it just got me thinking, like, I would love to read some of y'all's recommendations for books that you love and create a vlog on that. So definitely let me know what your favorite book is. Let me know if you enjoyed this type of vlog. And I'm really excited because I will definitely have more bookish videos coming up. I think I'm gonna do, we move in a couple days, and I think I'm going to hopefully set up my new bookshelf this weekend, and I thought that would be really fun just to like set up the bookshelf, kind of walk y'all through the books that I have on there, like call out some of my favorites, and maybe just like some books that are upcoming on my TBR. So I thought that would be fun. So I'm just really excited to shoot some more bookish content for y'all. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, I so appreciate you being here and just consuming my content and being part of my little internet family. It means so much to me. So I cannot wait to see you in the next vlog.